Hey,
Sorry?
everyone. Well, I'm just letting you know that we're live right now, so we can talk about what we want to talk. Oh, hey, Dave here too. What's up, Dave?
What's up? The sky is up. The day is up. The West Coast is up.
The West Coast is up.
Oh, you West Coast?
Yeah, that's the Pacific Ocean behind me.
Where? California, I'm guessing?
No, Vancouver, BC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just outside of Toronto.
Oh, I've been there many times.
Yeah. Well, if you know that, I'm like an hour and a half or so in a place called Barrie.
Oh yeah. I used to go out for training twice a year to North York, and we traveled around to different places and saw stuff while we were out there. So yeah.
Oh, I lived in North York. I lived in North York, that whole area for the first 10 odd years that I was in the country.
Yeah.
Like Thorny Hill, North York area. Sorry.
I don't want to stir any trouble up between you Canadians, but I learned from a YouTube video, which has to be true because it's a YouTube video, that there was a short-lived civil war in Canada about unification between provinces. I think it was during the 1800s sometime.
My Canadian history was I think a year of grade 9 Canadian history. So, and I moved to the country from South Africa, so my Canadian history is not really
right.
Dave might be the better person to ask about that.
Well, maybe they're trying to get away from the motherland. I'm not sure, Dave.
I think it was something you read on Q. I just don't.
Yeah. We as far as I know about how it worked, we didn't throw tea into the ocean.
Well, maybe you should have, because then you would be a great country like the United States of America.
Yeah. The great country where gun rights are free and medication cripples you.
Oh, let me ask you, Glenn, as a person who lived outside the city, do you own a weapon?
No. And I lived in South Africa and never owned a weapon. Never. Like if I was to ever do it, it'd probably just be like, because my girlfriend's dad's hunts, and that's how he doesn't usually buy meat of any sort. He just hunts, and so he owns a gun, and so if I wanted to, I could go to the range. Obviously, this. I could go to the range without having to get a thing just to shoot. But I've never, outside of when I was in school in South Africa, and I shot did target practice with one of these very low
22.
Capacity guns. I've never touched a gun in my life. I don't see any point in it. I really don't.
Yeah, other than hunting, I have an uncle who had 2 lockers full of guns. I never needed to have one. Whenever we went out, he had me covered. We'd go to the range or whatever. Yeah.
I don't honestly, I've always said that people, because when I was in Florida, I had this discussion with people from the US, and they always said that, and they said, well, we need it. I go, but it's because you were brought up that way. If you're brought up in Canada, you'd probably go, and he actually agreed that if they're brought up in Canada where there's less guns, there's a hell of a lot less gun violence, they probably wouldn't own them.
Yeah.
I've never seen a real gun.
I've never bought a gun, but I have them. I've been gifted guns. I have guns.
Wow.
Like for your 6th birthday?
Well, it didn't start that early. The more powerful guns that I've been given, that happened in my later age.
Okay, right. When I was in high school, a buddy of mine brought a gun over to my house just because I thought he was full of crap. He's like, I have a, my dad has a gun and I can grab it anytime I want to. It's like, you're full of shit, dude. And he just brought it over just to show me how much full of shit I was. It's like, wow, that's my high school gun story right there.
Yeah.
Well, the high school gun story I had was that someone I didn't know very well, but when I was in South Africa, some guy, early teens, killed himself with a gun.
Oh yeah.
That's, and you know what? I see the issue you guys have, and I just honestly, I see people in in our country pushing for looser gun regulations, and I'm going, you know what? I don't. You know what? It's a slippery slope that leads to the point where, what you have there, and the whole when we were talking on your show earlier, there's only a certain amount of characters I can type in. The problem is that whenever you come up against people that are pro-gun, there are people you can have nuanced arguments with, nuanced discussions with, but the majority of them is like the talking points, and then saying the talking points which are the people who aren't the people who aren't criminals aren't going to get go through the legal rights you have. And then of course there's two things: the ones that don't have a nuanced discussion, it's either talking points or they just insult you, and which point, like, I'm not going to bother.
Sure.
Sure.
And, and you're right, Glenn. It's talking to people who are fervent gun owners. It's a lot like talking with Christians or evangelical Christians. And here in the States, there's a the Venn diagram. It's pretty tight.
Yeah,
it's pretty tight here. So I just try to respond with comedy and try to do an oblique work around their defenses, which I guess that's what comedy does, right?
Yeah,
try to open up a space for them to think about the issue differently. Yeah,
like I remember, if someone who's like, there was this guy on Bill Maher. He was an NRA member. He had a show on the NRA channel. I forget his name. He was the black guy. I'm sorry, that's generalization, but while I disagreed with his views, he didn't just use the same sad, stupid talking points. He actually gave his reasoning and actually gave intelligent answers, as opposed to you'll never take our guns away, blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, dude, no one's going to take your guns away. It's the Second Amendment. Well, and to overturn an amendment that I'm not even American, and I know that to overturn an amendment is next to impossible. I'm not even American.
Can I ask?
I don't think they had the Second Amendment. I think that the Second Amendment was misinterpreted by the United States Supreme Court, and that's why we had to have an individual right when weapons of war was always intended for trained military personnel.
Yeah. I agree. It's been fully taken over and misappropriated big time. But
I think it was like a 1984 Republican Supreme Court that gave us the interpretation that we now have of the Second Amendment.
Once the NRA radicals took over the NRA, then they just started working the Supreme Court and started working the politics.
I was a person. My high school story is that I sold guns on the black market when I was in high school, in my late 20s, and I went to prison for it. I did 2.5 years in prison for it.
Wow.
And when I had this argument with people, one of the things they always say is, well, if you take away our guns, people are still going to get it off the black market anyway. And let me tell you, there's two ways that black market has guns. Either, little rich kids like me are breaking into your house and stealing the 20 guns you have there, or the gun manufacturers are selling their overstock, because criminals aren't out there making guns. I mean, some can now with these new printers, but
there's a bunch of people. There are tons of shops here in Texas that are privately owned gun manufacturers.
Well, yeah, there's a whole industry now for it. But yeah, and there's the debate on whether people should be able to print guns and all that.
I could build a gun. I'm not like any kind of
gun manufacturers have no oversight here in the United States, none. So if there's any overstock, they're supposed to destroy those weapons, and they'll tell you till they're blue in the face that they do, but they don't. There's no oversight. It's pretty much written in the law.
This is the interesting thing about the NRA, is that the NRA got weapons from the military because the military had too many guns, and so they just gave them to the NRA. I think, it's one of the bits of history the NRA doesn't want you to know about.
Yeah. Well, you see, also with the NRA, I don't know if it's ever been proven. It probably has. I just haven't researched enough. There's no way that they're not getting kickbacks from the gun manufacturers to spread this bullshit. Yeah. Like, they've got to be getting kickbacks from the gun manufacturers, because like we say, the politicians are in the back pocket of the NRA, and the NRA is in the back pocket of the gun manufacturers, 100%.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think that's why the NRA can go against. I mean, most NRA members want gun control here in America.
Yeah.
You know, but NRA don't care. They just they go against their own members most of the time.
So then why? Okay, explain this to me. The board is voted in by the members, right?
I think so. There's a lot of politics now.
Yeah, but if they for instance are voted in by the members, then if these members are not being represented by them, surely the majority of them can just go, okay, screw this, we're going to vote it, we're going to put moderate people on the board. Am I right?
Well, it seems like they go for the pretty face. I mean,
it works well on paper, but the thing is, as Yogi Berra said, the difference between theory and practice is that theory has nothing to do with practice.
Yes.
That being said, the Republican Party is actively going against what its members want. Typically, when you look at what policies are popular in the country, the Republican leadership hates it. And I've said this, and I'll say it again: small, motivated, well-funded minorities, right, can control and often do control what goes on in larger groups, whether you're talking about the Bolsheviks in Russia in 1917, or you're talking about the Tea Party, or you're talking about QAnon supporters. Small, motivated group of people just dominate the majority because they're loud and they're aggressive and they're well-funded.
They made a joke. There was this joke going around a couple of years ago, but it's based in reality with what happened with the Black Panthers. You want gun control? Just arm 90% of the black population. There'll be gun control in a day.
Yeah.
Well, I've got two things to weigh in. Seeing as there's more guns in your country than there are human beings, I can't see a way that you'll ever get control of it again. I don't think it's possible.
Not with the system we have set up.
Yeah.
No, it takes something pretty
like
drastic.
Pandora's box. The knowledge is out. Like
I mean, you literally have
comes to
Republicans that they hold no qualms in saying, if you come for my guns, I will shoot you. I mean, they're literally talking about killing police officers. But the moment Black Lives Matter takes to the streets, them damn criminals don't respect the police officers. Like you will murder them if they come for you. If we were to pass law. They say, like, no, we'll just murder you. You come for my guns. I don't care what the law says. I'm going to murder you. I mean, it's insane to me.
From the psychology background that I come from, for me, when I look at a problem, it's about damage control. The idea about you're ever able to completely eradicate a behavior, maybe that's unrealistic. But if you can lessen it, if you can make it more manageable, if you can make it manageable at all, if you can just create background checks, universal background checks, that would be a great step in the right direction.
Just oversight over the manufacturers. I mean,
oversight,
that would be awesome.
Making them culpable for, making them able to be sued, like we covered in the story. That would be a step in the right direction.
Also, well, obviously background checks, but then you got the background checks, which I think you can. I think the gun show loopholes have to be changed, and also the one where I think what you were saying about gifting, or where I can buy a gun in the U.S. and I have a clean record. I can give it to my brother who's a criminal, and there's that loophole there.
Yeah, I was gobsmacked, if I could use such bold language. I had an old girlfriend up in Maine, right? So Maine is kind of like the Florida of New England. And her stepdad had like a ton of guns. And he's like, do you want a gun? Do you want a gun? It's like, well, no, I don't. Thank you for offering. And just the idea that you could just gift me a gun right now kind of terrifies me.
There is a power trip involved, especially for me, when I held a handgun, there's a certain amount of power that comes with that, and you feel with that, and you feel it in your hand. It goes through your entire body. There's an adrenaline there. I didn't feel that so much with hunting rifles and stuff, just like shooting skeet as a teenager. But when I was selling them handguns, you hold a handgun, there's something there. There's a power there, and it's very addictive. And I think people want to push that on other people because and that's how a lot of gun owners become. What they are. They'll own multiple weapons because once you buy that first one, it's not enough. You need more and more.
I get that that's probably the real a lot of the real reason why people like guns. But the second thing that I wanted to raise is more of a question, especially to the Americans, is, and of course, as soon as I go to say it, it disappears.
Just like that.
Yep. So
That's
carry
okay.
on. It'll
That's
come
what you
back
get for
to me.
staying up till midnight.
My you see, one thing which people don't get, and everyone asks, well, you're in Canada, why do you care? Because if a lot of the guns, illegal guns that end up getting used in shootings in places like Toronto, guess where they come from?
Yeah, dude.
They're not falling from the sky. They're not coming from Ireland. They're not coming from the Middle East. They're coming across the border.
My questions, I've got it back now. I've basically only heard two arguments, and yes, there's some nuance, and it's essentially the same two arguments just said differently. But is it the case that the main two arguments for guns is because everyone else has a gun and you need to protect yourself from all the guns, and the other one is for the time that your government rises up against you so you can protect yourself?
No, it's a tool.
Yeah. Okay. So the good guy versus the bad guy with a gun, and everyone here in this chat knows this. More than likely, is that you're statistically more likely to hurt yourself or hurt someone that you love with a gun than you are ever to shoot a bad guy.
Mm-hmm. And to that tool thing, Tobin, I do get that to someone. I'm not sure where you live, and I understand it is a tool to a lot of people, especially farmers and hunters and things like that. But no human being that lives in a city has a need for a gun as a tool. What job could they possibly need?
You're right
to
about
do?
that.
I disagree.
I'm out in the sticks. I'm out in the woods.
Yeah.
I disagree, but only on the premise that in the situation that's in the United States right now, owning a weapon for home security is a justifiable excuse.
I think, Jim Jeffries, the comedian, said, and his most cogent argument against gun use is that everybody gets sad sometimes.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. It's not like it's not a viciously double-edged sword. And it's not like your gun should be in a safe, and it should be your ammo should be in a different locked box. It should be stored properly. It should be registered and all that.
That's the laws in Canada.
But if you hear somebody kicking on your front door and you have 60 seconds to get your gun, you are going to make sure that intruder leaves without hurting you.
I think once again, the chances of you shooting someone that you care about or yourself, it's higher than the chances of you going into this fantasy world of shooting an intruder. Buy a dog, buy a German Shepherd, maybe. I don't know.
Most people that are going to break into your house are going to stake your house out and wait for you to be gone.
Yes.
It's very rare when you're going to have a night invasion scenario, and it's usually involving serious drug abuse in those rare situations when it does happen. So I feel like if you really spend time addressing the root problems to crime instead of weaponizing a people and telling them basically, kill in self-defense, then you really don't have any need for this weaponry, and it's a lot harder nowadays to break in a house. You've got video cameras. We are more secure now than we've ever been before, and yet we have more weapons than we've ever had before.
Yeah, what you were talking about, disputing that fact. That's like an obvious thing, but you have to remember that the NRA isn't a gun organization. They're a political action committee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they also sell a lifestyle. It isn't just owning a gun, because once you have a gun, it's like you get the experience. You enter a clique, you enter a social group, and I think that's where they offer a lot of incentives and reinforcements to get deeper and deeper into the lifestyle.
So Andy, what you're saying is we need to convert Amway into Gunway and get them all into there so they have something else to do.
It's you got to and this is you make a joke about it, but it's also true. Is that typically when you're looking to change behavior, you try to like shift the behavior into something else. You go from doing like for the person who smokes cigarettes, right? So you get a toothpick in your mouth instead, or
chewing gum.
Form new habits.
Form new habits. Exactly.
Well,
As someone who doesn't
It's more
understand
dumpy.
what it's like to be scared to walk down the street because I could be shot. As in Australia, if you're a decent size or you can defend yourself, you know, I've often tried to sit and wonder what it would be like to know that people are wandering around with guns. And it's surreal to me. I can't even imagine what it's like, and yous live with that.
We use Australia all the time.
Everybody around me has guns. Like
but it seems to me
every single person in my neighborhood has.
We have to change that culture.
Guns.
And all this talk about the lifestyle and the tool, and it seems like that is such a tiny percentage of how the guns are actually being used, that as a country, as a nation, you sort of need to stand up and,
unfortunately, I don't think it'll happen in our generation. This is like Hollywood culture. I mean, we have a fascination with guns and gun violence here in America that sells out movie theaters and it sells records and so I mean there's an entire culture that you would have to change before you could even really think about any serious legislation to get rid of guns.
I'm cautiously hopeful because once again, all of us are old enough to have seen massive changes in our lifetime in terms of the culture and in terms of politics. And excuse me, in many ways it's positive, right? Legalization of marijuana, gay marriage, a black president. So I think a lot of the times, if you can just crack that fucking nut, if you can crack a nut, then it just collapses. And we may see that in our lifetime with gun control.
Okay,
after Sandy Hook, I am very skeptical of any gun change ever coming to America. I mean, if the massacre of little children didn't do it, and they criticized Barack Obama for crying over the massacre of little children, these gun nuts did. I don't see it in our lifetime. I think it's going to be a long fight, and we're going to have to change the culture, and it's going to be like preaching to the children, man. That's how it's going to be won.
Just got a quick question for you, Tobin. You were saying you don't live in the city, you live out in the sticks. With the people that own the guns, you say everyone here around you owns guns. Is it for hunting? Is it for is it for protection? Or is it a combination of both? What is it?
For both. I mean, there's military people that I know. I know ex-cops. I know the women. That I have an elderly woman who lives behind me. The woman who lives across the road. I mean, everybody is locked down. And like I was
protection,
saying, they're gifted around here. It's a joke, but it's somewhat kind of true that, like, if you get pulled over here, they're like, "Do you have a gun? Do you have any weapons?"
No, I've come across one person.
I don't have a gun. Oh well, here, take this one.
I had one person. We have coyotes here. We have coyotes here in Michigan, and I did have one guy I got into a gun conversation with me. Really stick me with his individual predicament, and I do agree. Like if you do have if you're a farmer and you have a coyote problem, well, they run in packs and are known for their tactics, and you might need a semi-automatic rifle to combat that. But those are individualized situations, and I think with gun control, it does address that. It makes it harder for anyone to own a gun, but if you are in those situations, well, then it would probably be somewhat easier because you are in actually need of that tool, because it is indeed a tool at that instance. But like the whole argument, like going against like some kind of revolution, like you're going to hold off the government. You got like we gave up that right the moment we allowed our government to design weapons like the nuclear bomb. You're not holding off the government if they want you.
The same people typically who are pro NRA up to their like balls into the NRA are also all for the military too, and giving the military whatever they want. And somehow they don't see this as a they're able to cognitive dissonance their way out of that problem.
No, but the same people that you're saying that, oh, we're for the police, we're for this, like you were saying, like what you were saying earlier, they're for the police, they're for this, but if you come try to take my gun, I'll blow your brains out, like, you know. And I think the funniest thing is that you see it's like that old picture from a couple years ago where it's like 5 300-pound guys with AR-15s and the trained military and a drone, and they go, we're going to take on the military. You know, it's like, really.
Sounds like the Wolverine Watchmen.
Yeah.
we have those here.
Wolverine Watchmen.
Yeah,
I know it's probably a little obvious, but is there a little bit of entitlement happening? Perhaps.
Oh, sure, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, just look. I mean, you go back to the NRA. Back when the Black Panthers were storming capitals with weapons, they were all for keeping the weapons out of the hands of citizens. And you know, now it's a different story. I think there's a whole undercurrent of privilege here within this discussion that doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah. Well, the president that the Republicans jerk off over, Reagan, signed a gun bill that took guns out of the hands of people. You know, this is their great savior. Even though I actually stated on a discussion that after 2010, George W. and Reagan wouldn't win one primary in today's Republican race. Not one. They would and not. That's how far right it is. It's the point that the Republican Party is pretty much like the old school Republicans are pretty much centrist Democrats, like Biden.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're not a radical, evangelical, frothing at the mouth, a QAnon spouting politician, then it's difficult to get traction in primaries in many states in this country.
Well, Trump just proved that you can run on no policies and basically like go to the lowest common denominator, get the lowest thing, and attract those people. The sad thing
about it is that most people vote on tribe, and to broaden it out is that most of their behavior is irrational. People do not think about their actions. And this is we have bad brains, as Michael Shermer says, and we really, as skeptics, really have to fight against not only our own bad brains, but also try to influence other bad brains too to be less bad. This is why it's such a hash, and we create systems that if anything don't make us smarter. You know, capitalism, late stage capitalism is not making us smarter.
Andy, it sounds like you're blaming the education system partially for this dilemma.
As a person who went through one of the crappiest school systems in Massachusetts, my high school was ranked consistently in the lowest 3.
Weird brag, Andy. Weird brag.
Weird brag. I'm flexing on this.
Well, wasn't it someone that I saw this basically easy.
You will not take my guns. You'll not take my guns.
Wrong accent.
Fair point.
I've just been rushing home because I've been listening to you in car. I've had you on in car. I've been listening to you in cars, but I've been chuckling away. As you know, I'm in the UK. We've got gun control in the UK. I do have guns, but they're all air rifles. I use mainly for target shooting. I mean, they're capable of killing you, but they're not long distance things.
Right.
I use mine in the gun club for target shooting. I do a bit of ratting and stuff like that. But I think it was Knock that was saying that people come on and say that basically they stood there with the AR-15 saying that you will not take my guns away. In the UK, obviously we've got gun control. If I literally was to publicly stand there, even with this, and go, "You will not take my guns," within 20 minutes, I'll have 30 police at the door, and they'll go, "Come on now." You get a second chance on that. Even, people that have got high-power firearms and stuff like that, if they were to put on social media, "The police will never take my guns," I guarantee you they'll be gone by morning.
It almost sounds like you have a functional government over there.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, your gun laws are kind of similar to Canada, that you aren't allowed to own handguns, as far as I know, in the UK, right?
No, you can't own handguns. That was stopped probably in about the 90s when some nutter went mad in a school.
In Dunblane, right?
Yes, it would have been the Dunblane massacre. Yeah, so that stopped handguns.
That's as close as I got.
I mean, I honestly don't even really see how gun control is an argument here in the States anymore. Like, we live in terror. You never know when it's going to happen. You know, it can happen anywhere. I mean, it happens every day. We just saw an ex-NFL player in South Carolina kill 4 people, 2 children. I mean, like, just out of nowhere. You know, it's not a debate anymore. Something has to happen. And the longer our leaders continue to not do anything about this epidemic, they should be held responsible for that. That blood is on their hands, and it's been too long now that we've been screaming in our face about this. It's been too long that our children have been the most susceptible to it, and I don't even see how it's a damn conversation anymore.
Well, you see,
that's the point I was trying to make. Like, I can't get my head around the fear, and I think that Americans have become desensitized to it.
Oh yeah.
I won't come to America. I'm sorry. Like, I'd be terrified. I know there's parts I would love to visit, but
that's the thing.
I'm not going to New York, and I'm not going out at night in New York.
Well, I actually went to because my parents used to. I think they got rid of it. Had a timeshare in Daytona. Was it Daytona? Yeah, and we went there, and we felt more or less safe, but we were on a big timeshare. But it is like same thing as like if you you do feel like whereas if I'm driving and some idiot is going 20 kilometers below the speed limit, I'm going to flip him off and pass him as soon as I can. I'd feel a little bit hesitant doing that in places in certain parts of the U.S. because
you should. There's a Freakonomics episode about honor culture. And honor culture exists when people feel unsafe, when they have wild weather patterns, when they don't feel safe, like in the South, right? There is this thing about, are you stepping to me, right? So there's a lot.
I was raised that way.
There's
I put that in the chat in your first stream. Like, I was that guy that in my 20s I would go into the bar looking for a fist fight because that's how I was raised. Like, you disrespect me, what? It was like not even like a second question about it. And thankfully, I think society has dampened that even in the South. But I'm sure it's still a problem down there.
Yeah, it's not 1975 anymore. Thank you, Chicken Scott.
Well, you see the thing that also a lot of people say, it's like we'll forget the fact that when Trump talked about the mental illness, yet he cut funding for mental illness. The rest of the world has mental illness. The rest of the world play the same video games as you. We love movies where they fire off 5,000 rounds of an AR-15. We like those same movies, but what's the one thing we have that you don't? Is proper gun control, and that's something that yes. Canada has a population your population is 10 times the size of ours. And we still have guns, but we have our regulations are so harsh that yes, a lot of we actually were, I think it was 2 years ago, we were like, it was national news that there were 200 people killed in a year in Toronto. 200 people killed. In a city of 4 million? How many millions?
Yeah,
and it was considered like a national emergency. 200 people, and then it's just a whole culture, and it's you're never going to take the guns away. And frankly, honestly, most rational people are past confiscation in the U.S. They're past it because they know it's not going to work.
Glenn,
but did
you hear about the stabbing out here in North Vancouver a couple of weeks back at the library?
No, I didn't hear about that.
There was a guy lost his mind and walked into the library with a knife, and he murdered a woman and brutally disfigured 2 others and stabbed, I think it was 8 other people. If that guy had an AR-15 or even a handgun, there'd have been 60 dead people that day.
Yes.
Yeah, the arguments against gun control that I've heard of that come from America, I've never heard one single good argument
The
about
argument that I would have heard, like if we would have just went into my little small town and Dave just said that story, the argument that's going to be thrown back is, well, if the citizens were armed, they would have taken that person out before there were 60 people.
If the citizens were armed, he'd have been armed.
It's like libertarianism.
It does happen, though. There are.
But let me ask you, Tobin, how does that excuse sit with you as an American? Do you accept that?
And do you know what the stats
I'm going
are?
to tell you right here. I'm a kid. I grew up and I thought they should melt all the guns down and nobody should ever have a fucking gun. Yeah, I grew up thinking that way. As I become more of an adult, it's just prevalent. They're all around. Like I said, I've never bought a gun. I've bought air rifles for my kids, but I've been given guns.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you see,
I don't even.
You see, I think it's also. Sorry. If you were still talking, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, can I just say,
what I would finish with is, I know there are people out there that are willing to do harm, and I would like to be able to defend myself. I am one of those kind of people who are more along the lines of like being an independent person and being self-sustainable. But I do like having a community that I can be like, hey, I'm down, let me get help. But on the same hand, I like the security of being able to defend myself, regardless of who can come and help. Out here, where I'm at, I have no police. There are literally no police. I have one elderly constable that rides around every once in a while. And if you call him, it could take over 20 minutes before they come here.
Yeah.
So just the wild animals, our boars and stuff like that, there are some creatures that I need to be able to defend myself against. And plus, methamphetamines down here is nuts. And there are some people that are completely thrown off their rocker.
Yeah.
And
well, you see,
I give up.
No, I 100% like you see, like I said, I in my situation, I don't own a gun because I don't feel the need to. I can fully understand you owning a gun, and I have no issue with it. It's and you were talking about the drug issue, and we're talking about that earlier as well. My personal opinion is you legalize all the drugs, stop criminalizing addiction, close all the private prisons.
Yeah.
That's another story for another day. You legalize all the drugs. You put the money into a rehabilitation, not incarceration, and you would probably see a drop in crime, ridiculously quick drop. It worked in Portugal. Granted, Portugal's a smaller country, but it will work because did you really think a heroin addict wants to be addicted to heroin, or a meth head wants to be addicted to meth? They got addicted, and most of the time they can't help. They can't do anything other than.
Once again, it's about limiting the damage, right? About limiting the damage. You may never be able to get someone completely off of drugs. You may never be able to get someone to give up all their guns or to stop gun violence completely. But that doesn't mean we don't have real world ways of controlling that, of attacking those behaviors.
What was that guy again, Andy? He was really good, that interview that you did.
Professor Alan Lichtman. If you want to check on it on my channel, Professor Alan Lichtman's been on Bill Maher. He's been on the Bill Maher show. He's been on CNN, MSNBC. He writes for The Hill. Brilliant guy. he created the system of how to predict the next president of the United States, and he wrote a book about repealing the Second Amendment and about what good gun control is. And if anyone hasn't seen the interview, it's maybe about the full interview is about a half an hour long, and the video about effective gun control might be about like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Is that
in your laughing and disbelief on your YouTube channel?
Yes, it is. Yeah, you just gotta look for Alan Lichtman. And,
okay, yeah,
he's a solid guy.
You see, what I think it also comes down to culture, because, for instance, where you live, Paul, whereabouts are you?
I'm in UK, in England.
Yeah, no, I mean because I'm outside of the Trident unit, no officers carry guns in the UK, and how many officers get killed a year in the UK? It's very low.
Very low, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a different society, because there isn't, like, if you had the amount of guns per capita as the US did, probably all the cops would be armed, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there would be, yeah. I would assume exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with gun control over here, we do have gun control, and anybody can own a gun if you want one. You just got to apply for a license, and as long as you've got good character, you don't have any mental illnesses, you haven't been done for like threatening behaviour and stuff like that, you can apply for a license, you can get a license.
Same here.
That right comes with a responsibility, and it's your responsibility to treat that gun with respect. And you step out of line, and I mean you step out of line, and the police they'll just take it away. Yeah. No qualms about it all. They will just take it away. And living in this society like that, I enjoy having guns. But living in a society like that, literally, I've had somebody knock on my door at 11, 12 o'clock at night, and it's somebody who's turned up legitimately. It's had to be late at night. I've had no idea they're coming. I do not think twice about opening my door at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. My friend turned up. He was stuck. He was drunk. He came around the back door. This was 2 o'clock in the morning. He's knocking on the door. I just walked straight down the stairs and opened the door. I never thought twice about it, because the chances of somebody being there with a gun or somebody being there to actually threaten me was the furthest thing from my mind. I never even thought about it. I just opened the door. My mate's there. He's drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning. I talk to people in the US, and after 9 o'clock at night, if somebody knocks on the door, they either will not open the door or they open the door with a handgun. Yeah. And I would not want to live like that. As much as I like guns, I would not want to live in that situation where I'm thinking all the time that somebody might want to frigging shoot me.
I just got to ask a quick question, because here in Canada, you have to either have to have a trigger lock on your gun, or the ammunition and the gun have to be stored completely in separate places. Is that the same rule in law in the UK?
Yeah, your gun's got to be kept in a safe all the time, unless it's been used for cleaning. Well, you're either cleaning it or you're going to take it out, transporting it. It's like, I'm sat here now, this is only an air rifle, I'm sat here now, that's just sat at the side of me. If that was a live firing rifle, and me just sat here talking now and that's just sat there, that would be classed as illegal, because I'm not cleaning it, I'm not using it, I should put it back in the gun cabinet.
But
how do you protect your freedom?
Do you have to keep your ammunition and your gun separately?
Yes.
Because also
and the ammunition has to be locked up as well, so they both have to be locked, and the keys have to be apart. And another thing as well, I used to have shotgun license years ago. I packed it in with shotguns, but the law's still the same with that, whether it's a shotgun or a live firing rifle. I had obviously I had the key. My wife could not know where that key was. She could not have access to that key because she didn't have a license. And the police can periodically come round and check to make sure that everything's all above board. And what a lot of the police officers will do, they'll be crafty about it. They'll knock on the door, say I wouldn't be in. The wife will answer the door and she says, "Oh, we've just come to check your husband's shotguns." And she might go, "Yeah, okay, come in." They'll walk in and they'll just say, "Oh, do you have the key to his safe so we can have a look?" She turns up with the key to that safe. They're taking the frigging lot away because she should not have had access to that key.
I don't think people here in the States understand that what you just said, this is the first time I've heard this, Paul, is that the police can basically walk into your home without a warrant, as long as you have guns, and just make sure that the guns are secure.
Yeah. I mean, they don't turn up aggressively and what have you.
Right.
It might even just be one police officer. It might be the firearms officer. And he's the one who you dealt with when you actually applied for your license. So he'll knock on the door and he'll be friendly as hell. He'd open the door. He'd just go, "Hey, Paul, just a quick check. I'm just come to check your your guns, and you just invite him in. He walks in, he has a cup of tea, he has a chat. 9 times out of 10, he's interested in firearms as well. He takes a look at them. He'll say, "Yeah, everything's all fine with that." But, you might have something that's amiss. You might have something where maybe you've not quite got it secure as it should be. It doesn't mean he's going to be basically a prick and just say, "Right, I'm taking him away." He'll just have a chat with him and just say, "Right, look, Paul, I prefer if you do this, don't do that, whatever it's going to be, and put you point you in the right direction." Right. Obviously, if you did that numerous times, it would then probably say, "Look, if I come here again and it's like that, I'm going to be taking him away."
Yeah.
So we're definitely playing by different rules.
That's a good way of putting it. Totally different rules.
It's a different game.
Yeah. Well, also, I think in Canada, I'm not quite sure if this is exactly right, but if you're transporting your gun, you have to tell the police you have to tell them, and for instance, if you're going to the gun range, you have to go to the gun range. You can't, for instance, go to you say, "Okay, I'm taking my gun to the gun range." You can't go, okay, now I'm going to go pick up this friend, then I'm going to go first. If you say you're going to the gun range, you have to go directly to the gun range. If you're going hunting, you have to tell, as far as I know, this is what I've been told by, I think my girlfriend's dad, who owns guns, I said earlier, said you have to actually go where you're going, say you're going with the gun. It's tighter regulations. It's, and it's like Australia, I guess. Like Australia, remember what people don't remember is Australia, when they banned the gun, when they confiscated the guns, when they had to buy a gun confiscation, it was an unpopular position by a conservative prime minister. A conservative prime minister said, "We're taking the guns away." His constituents, he almost. His constituents, a lot of his constituents, they were up in arms about it.
Yeah.
But he went through with it anyway, and I think he got reelected, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think he got reelected, and it worked. Like they had that one incident in Sydney in that restaurant, I think, like 2 years ago. But they haven't had a because they had a mass shooting just like you guys had in Dunblane. And after that, they haven't had a mass shooting since, So
he is not a popular prime minister in general, and didn't do a lot of good, as conservatives, need I say any more? But he'll go down in history, and everybody knows him because of what he did. He gave us our gun laws, and we're all proud of him now. And wouldn't have it any other way.
This is what I was saying back in 2016 before Trump got elected, is that leadership counts. There's some liberal voices that said before Trump got elected is that, the presidency, he can't do everything. The president, people think he can do anything. It's like, no, dude. It's like, the American president is imperial in nature and the office has wide powers. And so leadership counts. Leadership counts.
Well, you see, the whole thing that everyone talks about, just about if they can't get it through Congress and the Senate, is just using the presidential executive executive powers. Executive orders. What was it? A day after Biden got in, he reversed pretty much all of Trump's executive orders. So that's why executive orders are not like the way to go. And I'm sorry, the only way you're going to get anything done is somehow for. Can we please have a Joe Manchin sex scandal?
Please, that would be nice.
Well, I think it's even simpler than that. All I think it is going to take is a person or a small group of people with vision who want to do things to be remembered by when we wake up in the future and go, "Oh, that was a good idea," and not worry about what we think right now.
Yeah. Well, that's what leadership
the gun law thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same in the UK when they banned the handguns. Obviously, there was a bit of an outcry about that. But looking back now, yes, was it the right thing to do? Something needed to be done. So yes, unfortunately, we can't own handguns. But apart from shooting in the ranges and stuff like that, what use is an handgun over in the UK? Because we can't use them for personal protection anyway. You couldn't apply for a license to openly carry, and you wouldn't really be able to use it for personal protection because nobody else has a gun over here. So why should you be using a gun against somebody else?
I think if I'm not mistaken, in Canada you can own handguns, but it's only again for you can't use them. Guns in Canada, as far as someone told me, when you apply for guns, if you say what's the reason for owning guns, if you say personal protection, they'll deny you.
Yeah.
We have the restricted weapons list, so a lot of those are on it. But you are permitted, if you're like going bear hunting, you are permitted to carry a 6-shot sidearm. So you can carry a revolver, or you can carry a limited mag, like a Glock or something, as a secondary weapon. If you injure a bear and it tries to attack you, that's your only defense. So really, if you don't have something that's a 40 cal or better, you're not stopping a bear.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's different over in the US where you've got bears. In the UK, the largest thing we've got that could probably attack you is a fox. So
I want to say, like,
a fox is going to run away from you before anything. Like,
and even if it was to attack you, all you need is a pair of slippers, and you could probably beat it away. Like,
well, I want to say, like, we can have that type of gun reform here in America, the type that Paul Kamish was talking about, where police just come in your home. Like, there's precedent. Like here in Michigan, when we legalized marijuana for medical use, you had to become a licensed grower, and then you grew your plants, and you had certain rules just like you had with your guns. You had to keep them in a box, you had to lock them up, and police would come into your home and be able to check at any time, and nobody had an issue with it. Nobody did. So I mean, if you pass legislation and it becomes law, then I think it would be very easy to turn America into a country somewhat similar. It's just we don't have leaders really willing to lead on the issue. They placate and they dodge the issue when it actually comes up in Congress.
Well,
I think you're right then. Definitely, if they gave, say, like 4-week notice from this date, anybody owning firearms that are not registered, they're going to be taken off you, and you'll immediately get a 5-year prison sentence. You've got a 4-week notice. If you want to keep these weapons, you must register them, and they must be kept in a safe place. That's all they need to do.
Yeah.
And literally be strict on it. If you get caught with a firearm after that date and it's not registered and you've got no legitimate reason for having it, you've got a 5-year prison sentence. It will not take long for people to realise that it's not worth owning that gun for a 5-year prison sentence, or you apply for a license. It's simple.
Yeah. You see the problem that I see it as. First off, with the representatives only a 2-year term, and so they're constantly in re-election mode, and they know very well, is outside of the liberal areas of the country, if they were to actually stand up for the morally right thing, which is unfortunately not prevalent enough, nearly prevalent enough, if they stood up for the morally right things, there's pretty much a good chance that they are voted out 2 years. And even the senators know that, yes, they got 6 years. And if they do it at the beginning of their term, the chances are that even though that they'll have attack ads run against them, their voting bloc will forget about it.
Yeah.
But it's just impossible, because these guys are, a lot of them that for instance, Manchin, he's gutless as all hell, but he's in a very much, if I'm not mistaken, he's a very much in a red state area, red state, isn't he? Yes. And so it's not that he probably in his heart, which if he has one, agrees with, is a liberal, but he knows very well that if he goes against the Republicans on many things, they'll just put they'll put a moderate Republican up against him, and he'll probably lose. And that's what he matters more to him.
Yeah, the only reason why Manchin's still in power is because he sticks it to his own party on occasion, right? That's the only reason why he's still in power in West Virginia. I will say this: Joe Manchin sex scandal. I'm using that. I'm taking it. I wrote it down. It's going to be on the blog sometime over the weekend. That's just too brilliant not to use. That's what. That's
if trust me, if we could somehow get Al Franken out, if Al Franken gets out, if all these other people, surely we can find something this guy's done wrong. and it's got to involve another woman. Or
the problem is if you're a Republican here, it doesn't matter. I mean, the whole Matt Gaetz thing. He's got his base in Florida. That they'll keep electing that dude. They don't care about family values or any of the crap that Republicans put forth. It's all about tribalism and sticking it to the libs.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not only sticking it to the libs, it's sticking to the elitists.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a fucking elitist.
Yeah.
He was born with the silk spoon shoved up his ass.
Donald Trump as well. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
They hate the man, but they follow the man.
The problem with the House isn't just 2-year terms. It's the idea that they have gerrymandered districts, which very red districts, so they don't have to worry about agreeing with the other side or working with the other side because they know that they're safe.
Well, you see, that's the whole thing that puzzles me about Florida trying to do a Georgia-style voter suppression act. Why do you need to suppress voting? You're never going to lose the fucking state.
That's how much Republicans suck, though.
Well, it's because they're afraid that they're going to start losing it. Like, there's been indications, especially now that there's like this national eye on gerrymandering, to where the black vote really matters in Georgia. So they're seeing their majority in Georgia slip away, and they're seeing their power base in Georgia slip away. So they have to make legislation that's going to suppress the voting, or they're going to be voted out of office.
Yeah. Okay, I got to ask this question: the Americans on the panel.
I love this. This is great.
Surely, even the crazies in Georgia have to are going to try primary Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Surely.
Oh no, I don't believe so.
You don't think?
I don't think anyone seriously will. I mean, there might be someone who is like completely insane that just is out of an institution that might try to do a write-in candidate, but she knows her base, and that's why she's always working the base. It's like Trump, always work the base, always do fan service.
There's a couple states we literally allow the Confederacy to live. A couple states, Mississippi, Georgia, right? So what we're seeing in Georgia right now is honestly a great psychological experiment working out. I mean, you have a collision of two ideals, one being new progressivism, equality, every vote matters, and one against the old white supremacist dominion over Georgia. And those things are coming into conflict. And, when Donald Trump pushed it to the national spotlight, Kemp was mortified because Kemp has been the biggest cheater in elections for forever now. Since he was Secretary of State in Georgia, he was rigging elections for Republicans because they saw what was happening. On the ground, there's a swell. Stacey Abrams is a moderate Democrat, but she's extremely popular for a reason. It's because she has motivated a base in Georgia that was never motivated to do anything before because they had been suppressed since this country began.
Do you think Kemp could maybe be voted out as the governor?
I think he stole the election. I don't think he won the election that made him
no.
governor.
But what I mean is, do you think Abrams runs again, and do you think she's able to take him out?
I think her eyes are more on a national level at this point. I think she'll placate that she'll run for governor again. She's doing a great job mobilizing Georgia, but I think she's probably looking at a U.S. senator seat or even running on a national ticket in a future presidential election. My question is like I've only heard the bullet points of that act that he passed. That's got to be overturned in the courts. I know Trump hacked the courts, but even a conservative judge has got to look at this and go, yeah, this can't stand because that's unconstitutional. There's stuff in there that's blatantly unconstitutional, right? And even in my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, we saw Neil Gorsuch. We saw Neil Gorsuch rule against an employee that was going to freeze to death in his truck, and he left the truck. And Neil Gorsuch ruled against that man. He literally said, "You should have stayed in that truck and died." I don't put anything past this new Republican Supreme Court. They have made some decent decisions because the eye is on them. But once that eye is off, the claws will come out.
It's more a question of politics than the law. We've gone into this kind of post-constitutional, in many ways, not in all ways, kind of life, kind of scenario where it's more about politics than actually what the word of the law is or the spirit of the law is.
I had a discussion with some people because my cousin out in Alberta was going, I could not tell you what political persuasion any of our Supreme Court justices are in Canada.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is that they rule to the law. They don't. Now, I'm assuming that they interpret the law. Obviously, that's their job. But I mean, it's not like, this guy is. I wouldn't even be able to tell you who the damn names of our Supreme Court justices are. And whereas in your country, it's like, oh well, this person is left wing. This is right leaning judge. I mean, it's like, surely. How I know it's interpretation and it's your vision of something, but how can you look at something and go, yeah, that's
Since the founding of the country, with the Constitution has had a tenuous relationship with constitutional law. Like, for an example, in the Constitution, the Supreme Court does not have the power for judicial review. It's just something they did. It's just something they did, like in 1787. They just said that we're going to have power to say whether or not this law is constitutional or not. And people said, okay, you can do that.
And the fact that our Supreme Court is so partisan now is a direct result of evangelical Christianity here in America. Evangelical groups, subgroups like the Quiverful movement have infiltrated government for a long time, and it is the evangelical base that has made hot-button issues important within the Republican Party. So they actually care about judges. So and there's this litmus test that they put on their right, the right people, wing people in power, and so they have to put in judges that are going to vote against things like Roe v. Wade, or would vote against things like gun control, or any kind of oversight over corporate monopolies. These things are litmus tests because the evangelical power base understands that there's a wave of progression in this country, and the only way to combat it is through law.
All right. It's been last word. Tobin.
Yeah, and that's why I think we need to push on the religious people, because I think it stems to every issue that we have talked about. It's not going to change unless there are people who are thinking a little more logically. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't go along with gun regulations and things like that. I understand that. I totally would. I don't have to have a gun to survive. But in the state in which I live, it's, I can't almost not help,
Sure. I understand. All right.
Banning guns is a pipe dream. Nobody's really even talking about that on the political spectrum.
Just limiting the damage.
Yeah, I think we all just need to chill out, listen to great music, drink beer, and ignore the rest. But unfortunately, that will never happen.
I think more marijuana is the answer. I'm not going to lie to you.
I second that.
Yeah.
Everyone, thanks for showing up. This has been a fantastic after show party. This is
awesome. See you on Monday.
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right.